Chapter 4. Congress initiates forest study. It may be said that the Forest Service started as a research agency. When Congress appointed Dr. Franklin B. Hugh, the first federal government forestry agent in 1876, and assigned him to the Department of Agriculture, his duty was to compile a statistical inquiry on the conditions of U.S. forests. Hugh, who was born in 1822 in Martinsburg, New York, was a physician in rural upstate New York. Typical of his class in the period, he had other interests, including history and statistics. It was the latter interest that alerted him to the timber supply issue when he was directing the state censuses of 1854 and 1865. When he compared the two, he noted that timber production levels shifted as loggers searched for new stands of timber to harvest. The visible decline of timber stands was becoming increasingly apparent along the East Coast in the 19th century. It was the site of forest destruction during the Civil War that led the Reverend Frederick Starr to predict a timber famine in 30 years in an 1865 report to the recently founded Department of Agriculture. To prevent this scarcity, he advocated planned forest management research done by a government-funded private corporation. No federal action was taken on this proposal until the efforts of Hugh revived the concern over the future of public forests. Hugh, a 20-year member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, presented a paper at the 1873 annual meeting on the duty of government in the preservation of forests. On the next day, the American Association for the Advancement of Science passed a resolution to petition Congress, quote, on the importance of promoting the cultivation of timber and the preservation of forests, end quote. The following year, Hugh went to Washington, D.C. to formally present the memorial, meeting first with Joseph Henry, director of the Smithsonian Institute, to discuss forestry. Congress opted to fund a study of the subject by appropriating $2,000, and Hugh was appointed to the position. He gathered data through travel in the United States, Europe, and Canada, correspondence, and publications. The multi-volume Report on Forestry called for the management of federal timberlands, creation of federal forest experimental stations, tree planting, and public education on the need for forest conservation. In 1881, Hugh was named Chief of the Division of Forestry within the Department of Agriculture, and, although later demoted, he remained an agent of the division until his death in 1885. He is credited with writing the first book on practical forestry in the United States, titled Elements of Forestry, which he did in 1882. For this and many other actions on behalf of forestry at his death, he clearly was, as stated by Gifford Pinchot, the chief pioneer of forestry in the United States.